And for more on this, let's bring in our Faith Nation panel, Senior White House Correspondent Kelly Wright and Steve Yates, Senior Research Fellow at the Heritage Foundation. Gentlemen, welcome. So Kelly, we'll start with you. How is the White House working behind the scenes here to make sure this deal stays on track? And how confident is the president that Hamas will actually follow through?
Well, at this point, Jenna, good evening to you, by the way. The president is focusing on making sure that all 20 points of his peace plan are enacted. Of course, we're in phase one, and that, of course, is with Israeli troops pulling back to a position. And then we have 72 hours for the hostages to be released, Hamas doing its part. And then it gets into the thorny part, and that is making sure that Hamas disarms. That is something that's very important to the president, as well as to the Arab leaders, I should say, operating in the Middle East as they oversee this plan as well. And not to mention Bibi Netanyahu and the Israeli cabinet. This is a concern that they have. Many of them are not happy with the fact that 250 known terrorists convicted of terrorism are being released in exchange for all of this to be transacted. But look, the president has worked very hard behind the scenes. He continues to do so with Steve Witkoff still in the area, as well as Jared Kushner, making sure that all of the important issues are done and that Hamas or even Israel will not cause any impediments by breaking some aspect of this deal. So the president continues to put his quiet pressure on that, peace through strength, and he is not taking his eyes off of that. He is scheduled to fly over there to actually be part of the process and to welcome home the hostages when they are returned.
Yeah, it's remarkable how he was able to really get all of these players to the table. Steve, from your perspective, how fragile is this ceasefire and what are the biggest risks within these next 72 hours?
Well, I would take nothing away from the work and just the dogged determination that the president and his team exhibited in getting us to where we are. And I also think that this is on the foundation of the historic Abraham Accords of his first term. And that framework of collaboration with Arab neighbors, I think, is going to be key in trying to hold what I would think is a fragile peace. Hamas is a terrorist organization. We have at the beginning of a process of seeing whether they will honor the agreement and returning all remaining hostages, whether they will abide by laying down their arms, and what kind of a new governance structure will emerge in the Palestinian area. And I think that that is really the toughest of tasks. But the hardest part is to begin. And the president deserves immense credit for getting people to commit to this beginning phase. And hopefully all allies and maybe even some of the critics along the way will now put their spade and do some of the constant gardening required to keep peace.
Yeah, and we're talking about future government, Steve. The plan for Gaza, it calls to be governed by an apolitical Palestinian committee with Trump himself as the chairman. Your thoughts on that structure, Steve, and how is it being perceived in the region there?
Well, it's a different kind of structure. Of course, the United States has been through some post-war government collaboration exercises. Many of them are not happy. If you look at what we did with Iraq and Afghanistan, some good done, but a lot of headaches that came along the way. And I trust all of the president's team are seeking to avoid the mistakes that we know from those experiences. But this is one of the hardest things. The Palestinian people have been led by the likes of Yasser Arafat, which did not lead to peace and prosperity. They've gone through a period of a Palestinian Authority that allowed for Hamas to go through rogue elections, to have influence. And so really we're looking for uncharted territory for what kind of an entity might hold this in place. And of course, the president wants to make sure that he has skin in the game to nudge things in the right direction. But really, again, I'd go back to real stakeholders in the region. And one of the core principles of Trumpism is that our allies closest to challenges that impinge upon their interests take their share of risk and responsibility. And I expect us to see that in this.
Yeah. Kelly, there was another peace deal of sorts taking place behind the scenes today. First Lady Melania Trump saying today that she's been in talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin. What do we know about the nature of those conversations, Kelly? And what was the First Lady, what has she been able to achieve so far?
Well, look, she made that announcement today here at the White House in the Grand Foyer. and it's unprecedented with what she's been able to do. She has been in contact with the Russian President Vladimir Putin, opening up lines of communication by initiating it in terms of writing a letter to him, and he in turn returned and reciprocated that. Well, they have been working on helping the children, the most vulnerable in this war between Ukraine and Russia. The First Lady going on to say, you know, hopefully we can get to peace, and it starts with the children. She's been helping to convince Vladimir Putin to release some of the Ukrainian children that have been taken into Russia. Some of them are minors and then turning 18 years of age. And she is making progress, giving the information to reporters today that just within the last 24 hours, 8 Ukrainian children have been returned home. She will continue to work on this and try to find peace by actually looking at the most vulnerable of the population, and that would be the children. Yeah. So it was really surprising and unprecedented in terms of what she's been able to accomplish thus far, and we'll continue to follow the developments of that.
Yeah, it's a huge deal. They believe somewhere around 20,000 kids have been kidnapped. Many believe it's actually much higher than that. So
much higher.
It's nice to see at least 8 reunited. All right, Kelly and Steve, thank you. Steve, thanks for being with us. Kelly, you're going to stick around for more on the other side of the break.